Hello everyone, and welcome back to my Senate election prediction videos, where I take a look at the Senate races going on across America in 2024 and give my thoughts, analysis, and predictions on the races. And today we are approaching the end, and this is the penultimate race, the state of Texas, the Lone Star State, a seat currently held by the Republican Party and Senator Ted Cruz. Senator Cruz is in his second term. In 2018, Senator Cruz's margin of victory was just over 2.5%. In 2020, Donald Trump won the state of Texas with just over 5.5%. In 2024, at the presidential level, I think there's no doubt that former President Trump will carry the state, probably by a similar or a reduced margin than he carried it in 2020 and 2016. Texas is trending somewhat bluer at the presidential level, but not at the level yet to where Harris has, in my opinion, a legitimate chance to claim victory in Texas. Let's take a look at the two nominees for the United States Senate. The Democratic nominee is Representative Colin Allred. Representative Allred is currently serving in his third term in the United States House of Representatives. He was part of that huge Democratic wave that came in 2018, and he unseated a very long-term incumbent in the Dallas area. And at that time, that seat was seen as more of a toss-up seat, and in redistricting that occurred after the 2020 census, it became an overwhelmingly Democratic seat. Part of the broader shift of suburbs and your more urban areas of Texas away from the Republican Party towards the Democratic Party. Mr. Allred is a Texas native and has built his reputation in the House as working across bipartisan lines and really finding consensus. Prior to joining the House, Mr. Allred served in the Obama administration, and prior to that, Mr. Allred enjoyed a tenure in the NFL. He played his entire career for the Tennessee Titans, being a contributing player to the team. He played college football at Baylor University in Texas after being a standout high school player in the Dallas metro area. Mr. Allred is an African American and is seen as one of the bright stars in the Democratic coalition and a rising star in the party in general, and has run a really disciplined campaign against Cruz in a very Republican state, and has definitely built his reputation on bipartisanship, and we'll talk about that in a minute after I talk about Cruz. The Republican nominee is the current incumbent Senator Ted Cruz. Senator Cruz is currently serving in his second term, seeking a third term, violating a campaign pledge that he made in 2012 to only serve 2 terms in the Senate. Senator Cruz, prior to becoming a senator, was Solicitor General for the state of Texas, and prior to that he held various positions in the Bush Justice Department. And Senator Cruz has really distinguished himself in the Senate as being a hard-line conservative, making himself a foe of Republican leadership, and sought the presidency in 2016 and was the last Republican standing against the eventual nominee, former President Trump. President Trump made many personal accusations against Cruz and his family during that campaign, and Cruz used very forceful language to denounce former President Trump in that primary. But by 2018, Cruz knew where the political winds were shaping and hugged Donald Trump for dear life, and has since become one of the most fervent supporters of former President Trump in the Senate, and has really been very fervent and unwavering in his support of former President Trump. Cruz led the effort in the Senate, along with Senator Josh Hawley of the state of Missouri, to overturn the 2020 elections. So Cruz very much on the right side of issues. Senator Cruz also gained notoriety in 2021 when a devastating ice storm hit the state of Texas, and many Texans lost power and were essentially freezing when he jetted off with his family for a family vacation to Cancun, Mexico. In the primaries in the state of Texas, about 2.2 million votes were cast for Republican candidates, and just over 967,000 were cast for Democrats. And that's about a 69 to 30% split. Look, sometimes you can gain a lot of knowledge from primaries, and sometimes they tell you squat. And this is an instance where they tell you squat. Republicans had very competitive primaries across Texas, and a very well-funded opposition at the state level to state legislators that was backed by the governor. They targeted members of the legislature who had not been sufficiently loyal to some of the governor's programs, and that helped to contribute to their higher total. And Democrats did not have as many competitive primaries, and that contributed to their lower showing. Both Cruz and Allred faced opposition in the primaries, but they were the heavy favorites of the party establishment, and both were the preferred nominee. Obviously, Cruz, as an incumbent, is always the preferred nominee, and Allred was the candidate of Senate leadership. That's who they wanted to take on Cruz. How do I think this race is going to shape out? In 2018, Beto O'Rourke ran a tremendous campaign against Senator Ted Cruz in a Democratic wave year, and he got really close. And Ted Cruz did not take that close election and recalibrate himself as a deal maker and as a consensus builder. He stayed true to his conservative bona fides. Every Democrat in the state of Texas in 2018 voted for Beto O'Rourke, and it was not enough. And Texas, while trending blue, has had a huge influx of residents from other states since the pandemic. And some people believe that these residents are liberal residents leaving blue areas, moving to Texas. That's not necessarily true. Most of them are conservatives leaving blue areas to be with people that have a similar ideology. And that will help contribute to Republicans continuing for the time to maintain power in Texas. And I just don't see Allred being able to come over that final hurdle. I believe this race in the end will have a similar result as 2018, maybe a little bit closer. Maybe get Cruz to 1% or under 1%. But in the end, I think that Trump's coattails and just the partisan composition of the state of Texas will help Cruz get over the finish line, and he'll be elected to a third term in the Senate. And now I'm going to show my little bit of my partisan beliefs here. It's a shame, because Colin Allred is a tremendous candidate. And if this was purely on the merits, Allred would beat Cruz by a wide margin. Cruz is not interested in building consensus. Cruz is not interested in the really fine work of being a senator. Senator Cruz is more concerned with being a media star, whereas Mr. Allred, by his work in the House, is more interested in building bipartisan relationships. So Senator Cruz elected to a third term, and that's a hold for the Republican Party.